The 10th Nissan Sugarbelt 400, round 2 of the Bankfin Off-Road Challenge. A sunny and respectable 8 o'clock start for the Nissan Sugarbelt 400, and ahead of the 107 starters lay 414 kilometers of tough racing through sugarcane fields, forests, and over mountainous terrain. The Bertolds were first off the line, but their race would be run within the first hour when a front spindle broke. Grobler and Leek had the advantage of four-wheel drive on the Nissan hardbody and would use it to maximum benefit in the slippery early morning conditions. But breathing down their necks were a host of other Class T contenders. Reigning champions Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan scored their maiden production vehicle victory on last year's Nissan Sugarbelt 400, and non-finish at the Barbespun 500 meant that they would have to play catch-up if they had any hope of winning back-to-back championships. The four-time touring car champion has taken to off-road racing like the proverbial duck to water and has competed in only 13 off-road races, including this event, in his short but spectacularly successful off-road career. Api Reineke and Robin Houghton have won the championship 5 times since 1995, and based on their performance in the Barbespun 500, the 2002 Bankfin Off-Road Championship could well be their 6th. The next special vehicle off the line was the Nashua Mobile Racing Jimco of Terence Marsh and Trevor Ahir, who are also relative newcomers to the sport. Hot on their heels were Barbespun 500 runners-up John Weir-Smith and Tony George in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel BMW Jimco. Next up was Brandon Harkis and Colin Howell in the locally built and designed Nissan-powered Bat. Moreco Ford Caledon 400 winners Greg Dowse and Trevor Ormerod were Class S championship leaders after a podium finish in the Barbespun 500. They had to contend with some serious pressure from Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer in the Ford Ranger, who had to take avoiding action when Dowse lost control of the Nashua Mobile Racing raceco. Woolridge gained a place within meters of the start, and the race was now with the Ford pair hell-bent on hauling in the Toyota and the Nissans. Rob and Gareth Walk were early casualties when the super-paved Mighty Mag broke down shortly after the start.
Look at you guys. Look at the splines. The splines. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. That is standing in the middle. Oh, yeah. What's happened? The splines on the gearbox from the spouty gears, the splines seem to have stripped. So we've got no drive. Looks like we'll be drinking beer today.
200. 100 T-right shop. 100 T-right shop. Shop.
Following the early demise of Gary and Bodo Bertholdt, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek moved into the lead, but couldn't relax their pace because they had their Nissan teammates Geniel de Villiers and Francois Jordan in close pursuit. De Villiers is not one to play the waiting game. He attacks from the start and prefers to lead rather than to chase. Api Reineke and Robin Houghton were having a steady run in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, which will soon be replaced by a brand new vehicle, currently nearing completion at Toyota Motorsport. On board with special vehicle category leaders John Weir-Smith and Tony George in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel BMW powered Jimco, now fitted with 35-inch tyres all round to improve braking and handling. Weir-Smith has had his fair share of podium finishes, but victory has eluded him in his 4-year off-road racing career. Woolridge and Scholthammer picked up a puncture and once again found themselves behind a Nashua Mobile Racing entry, this time the Jimco of Marsh and Ahir. Dropping places due to the puncture meant that they had to contend with choking dust in the cane fields, but they've proven in the past that they have been able to come from behind and win. Hard on their heels was the new 450 horsepower V6 powered Jimco of Makhenene and Sally. Former Former quad racers Mark Breckel and Ian Kilburn in the ex-Stan Illman Roof of Africa winning Brasco Refrigeration Raceco were well placed at this point, but would later retire with a blown engine. Class B leaders Warren Morton and Donovan Brown from KwaZulu-Natal set a blistering pace and had moved into the top 10, but were closely followed by Class D leaders Pete Haasbroek and Christo Bosch in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, which was performing faultlessly. Class A contenders Greg Harvey and Boy Stone maintained a steady pace, but were followed closely by locals Gavin Gray and Brian Scott, who were the Class B winners in the Barberspun 500. The competition in Class B has developed into a north versus south battle, with the field equally split between Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Icho and Jaap de Bruin had matters under control in Class E in the competitive Toyota Hilux, but had to guard against putting a wheel wrong. They afford to lose any time to the hard-charging diesel-powered Ford Ranger of local cane farmers Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham. Back up with the leading pack, and Grobler and Leek were still in command in the Nissan hardbody, but had teammates De Villiers and Jordan in hot pursuit. The Veronica Houghton Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser was experiencing power steering problems, which slowed them somewhat. Despite this problem, they were able to maintain their lead over the Team Ford Racing Ranger of Neil Woolridge and Kenny Scholthammer, who would retire soon after this with a broken front suspension, the result of a collision with a rock. There were similar problems for special vehicle category leaders Weir Smith and George. They too hit the rock and suffered only a puncture on the Jimco, but valuable time was lost trying to replace the wheel without a jack. Haasbroek and Bosch were unstoppable in Class D in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, but had Harvey and Stone close behind in the Lexus V8-powered Queen Motor Spares Jimco. Former touring car driver Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith had got to grips with their Class D Nissan hardbody and were well placed for a maiden class win, while locals Mark Laurie and Andrew Davis had matters under control in Class S. The De Bruins were still in command in Class E in the Toyota Hilux, while former special vehicle crew Mark Corbett and John Moore had moved up to third in Class D in the Century Property Developments Isuzu. Schroeder and Peckham were lying second in Class E and content to play the waiting game. Andrew and Janet Fulton were the Class B leaders in the ex-Gavin Gray JRE. Multiple champion Franz Chebek Sr. and Scott Abraham led Class F in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Jeep. However, their race would end 40 kilometers from the finish when they rolled 30 meters down a mountainside. Machigenene and Sally would also be forced into retirement with gearbox problems. The designated service point and new leaders, De Villiers and Jordan, had got by teammates Grobler and Leek and took advantage of their new long-range fuel tank, which meant they no longer had to refuel at the halfway mark.